hanging out.
Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217 or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
Oh, thank you, John. John, I know that you share my sadness at the death of our good friend, Rabbi Reuven Bulka.
What a loss.
Just before I get into the program, I just want to reiterate that this is a real loss. There's no question about it. We're all going to miss him very much. Rabbi Bulka was a wonderful, kind, thoughtful man. And he was part of the lives of many of us, particularly at CFRA. I'm not sure, John, if he had the same relationship with people at the other radio stations as he did at CFRA. I kind of doubt it. Don't forget, I mean, he did a program for CFRA. He got to know us very well over the years. I'll never forget the Christmas. I forget if he brought them in Christmas Eve. I suspect it was Christmas Eve, maybe Christmas morning. Great big Merry Christmas cake.
Oh, look forward to that every year. Oh, yeah.
Fed the entire staff, I'm sure.
Absolutely.
It was enough. The cake was big enough to feed the entire Russian army. But the acts of kindness, too, that I want to remember is that he sat in on Christmas Eve to host programs and Christmas morning and a good chunk of Christmas Day, so that those of us who were of the Christian faith could stay at home with our families. And he didn't celebrate Christmas, of course. So he did this as an act of kindness. I don't think he charged. This was just something he did. Just out of it was an act of kindness, no other way. And I want to tell you, as someone who, in his early broadcast days, sat in on many Christmas days and Christmas Eves with a young growing family, how grateful I would have been if someone had been available to sit in for me on those programs. So I just want to say that not only will I miss him, I know that you will miss him, John. I know that many of us who worked with him, who were recipients of some of his acts of kindness and acts of his good humor too. He had a very dry down-to-earth wit.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'd have to look at him. Is he joking here? And you could see that he was. There's a pretty famous story. They caught him down on Sussex right after we had the big, not Sussex, but Rideau Street, after we had the big cave-in. Remember the big sinkhole?
The sinkhole with the van, yeah.
Yeah, and so someone asked him, say, Rabbi, what are you doing down here? Oh, he says, I'm here to bless the sinkhole.
Yeah, that sounds like him.
Yeah, that sounds like him. So we'll miss him. The city will miss him. The country will miss him.
For sure.
Rest in peace, Rabbi. We love you.
Yeah.
And by the way, if anybody has a personal experience with Rabbi Bulka or would like to add to the growing list of tributes, please feel free to do so. John, go through the number again.
Yeah.
That they call or text to get in touch with us.
Wouldn't that be nice to hear from some folks with some great memories of Rabbi? 613-413-2217 is the number. If you're watching on Twitch or on Facebook or on YouTube, the number is on your screen. But again, 613-413-2217. You can email as well. We'd love your thoughts. Lowell@blasttheradio.com.
Now, not too many words of praise coming out of our airports, particularly Pearson International Airport. The news is just now breaking. I don't know if other segments of the media have this or not, but I have a source, this actually from Canadian Press. During a 4-day period between June 20th and 24th, no fewer than 20, count them, 20 international flights arrived at Canadian airports carrying passengers with COVID infections. One of the things we don't know is what kind of mutation they may have had, but as you know, the Delta variety, which has devastated India, has now pretty well become the dominant force, the dominant strain in Ontario. But I just want to reiterate that for some reason, I mean, it's pure madness that we're not shutting these airports down or taking greater precautions. And these people who are arriving here very clearly on a daily basis, nothing is happening. Only from the latest figures are that fewer than 20% of these people really undergo any kind of quarantine. Let me just give you. I have a list here of where these international flights have come from, and let's just start with the ones that arrived at Pearson International Airport. This is between June 20th and 24th. These are flights that arrived at Pearson International Airport with at least one passenger, and in some cases more than one passenger, infected with COVID. Warsaw, Bogota, Dallas, Texas, Cairo, Dubai, Frankfurt, Istanbul, and Lisbon. Now, let me just give you, those are the ones that just arrived. 9 of them arrived at Pearson International Airport in the 4 days. Let me just go through. In all, there were 20 flights arrived at other airports. Let me just go through them all. There was also one from Addis Ababa that arrived at Pearson International Airport. But all in all, let me just go through it. So these are flights that arrived in Canadian airports during the 4 days with COVID aboard. From Addis Ababa, Manila, Mexico City, Amsterdam, Warsaw, Guatemala City, Bogota, Vancouver, Portland, Dallas, actually 2 from Dallas, Seattle, Fort Lauderdale, Panama City, Cairo, Dubai, Frankfurt, Istanbul, Vancouver again, and Lisbon. 20 flights in all, international flights, arrived in Canadian airports during a 4-day period with COVID aboard. In addition to that, we had domestic flights that arrived in Canada from other Canadian cities. One arrived in Edmonton, Vancouver, Calgary, Nanaimo, Toronto, Halifax, and Toronto. From Vancouver, Fort St. John, Waterloo, Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto, and Winnipeg. So there was 20 flights international, and 7 domestic flights arrived in a 4-day period with with COVID passengers. And as I say, nothing done to stop these flights, nothing done very clearly. I mean, we're supposed to be, we've been told that before you get on these flights, you've got to be checked, et cetera, et cetera. Very clearly, whatever is being done is not being done properly. Not only that, the only thing is that most of these people, when they arrive here, we find out that they've got COVID, and all they're asked to do is self-isolate. Well, we know that most of these people will not self-isolate, or if they do, they isolate with large groups of other people. And then the other people, of course, come and go, etc. This is how the virus has been spread, particularly the mutation. But still, I mean, it's madness. It's madness that this government, the federal government, has not taken more steps to stop this. Here we are, John, you and I and everybody else, or 95% of us anyway, are doing what you're supposed to do, the lockdowns, etc. We know everything. We're doing everything. Meantime, every single day, they're importing these cases with nothing or very little done to stop it. I don't understand it. As I say, to me, the Prime Minister allowing this is just absolute madness. And meantime, and who can tell me why, this guy, Justin Trudeau's popularity continues to grow. Latest polls indicate that he probably will win a majority government. So, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, John, increasingly, I'm just going to lay off this. If this is what people want, what the hell can I do? I mean, a few of us are trying to alert the country to some of the things we think that are wrong, the dangers, but people just, for the most part, people just don't seem to give a damn. So what? You know, all the scandals and everything. No. I don't understand it, so let's move on. What I am very pleased to see is that the majority of Canadians, thank goodness, are opposed to shutting down or canceling or postponing Canada Day. This is very, very encouraging. As you know, a number of our leaders, so-called leaders, are shutting down, some cities, Victoria among them, shutting down, canceling Canada Day celebrations. Our Prime Minister has indicated that instead of celebrating this great country, we should use the day to mourn and reflect on all of the bad things we have done. But an increasing number of Canadians are saying, no way. You know, you can mourn and self-flagellate 364 days, but on one day, on Canada Day, we celebrate the greatness of this country. Thank goodness for that. I think when the history books are written on these past couple of decades, I think chief among them are going to be chapters pointing out the total absolute lack of leadership, of decent leadership, trying to make us feel bad all of the time. And not only that, I think also one of the things that we're going to be moaned, I hope, in years to come, is the lack of the teaching of history, the lack of knowledge. So few people understand very little about this country, how it was formed, or even how it came about. It's just, to me, it's sad, it's unfortunate, and I think that it's unhealthy for the country. If you don't know how your country came about, if you don't really understand your country, then I don't know how you can make wise decisions on behalf of that country. But once again, you may have different thoughts. John, any texts coming in or calls at any time?
We've got some comments on Facebook. The phone is quiet. We'd love your calls, 613-413-2217. And again, the email address for you is lowell@blasttheradio.com. We begin with comments on Facebook from Peter. Peter says, Trudeau is filling the country with his future voters nonstop. China closed its airports to India even. But hey, let's bring them in here. He adds, Trudeau's popularity grows because the mainstream media never challenge him. The opposition doesn't go after him like he needs. We need a leader of the Conservative Party that would literally have him wet his pants daily. And says, what good are the COVID tests prior to boarding these flights? Obviously, they don't stop infected individuals from boarding with COVID. Leanne says, how did the airline let him on? You need proof of a negative test. Airlines responsible as well. Lisa says, Lowell, you don't expect Trudeau and his trollops to do the right thing, do you? All he's interested in is votes. Some of the comments coming in now.
I just understand. I don't understand why this appears to be getting him votes. I repeat, we're suffering greatly. Ordinary people, businesses put out of business. Excuse me, we've gone through all of this 100 times. for some reason, even though we know what's happening, we know that this stuff is being imported, and we know who's responsible for this. Only the federal government can deal with international flights and our airports, for that matter. But nobody seems concerned about it. I mean, it's one of the things that's really puzzling me. I've been around a long time, and I thought that I had things pretty well figured out. You know, when you talk to people for 60 some odd years, different kinds of opinions, et cetera, you think you get things figured out. This one I don't have figured out. I had difficulty figuring out why Kathleen Wynne continued to win support after, billions of dollars of boondoggles, but people finally wised up to her. Did they ever? But I don't understand what it is. Sometimes I just wonder what it is that people want in a leader. I mean, do they not want someone who is ethical? I mean, we all know that this prime minister is not, but I said that I was going to leave it. Nobody cares. So let's deal with it. One of the things that I do want to talk about, of course, is our good friends at Shields. I just want to point out Canada Day is this Thursday, which means that the end of June is Wednesday. Where the heck did June go, right?
Right.
So the big Frigidaire sale at Shields ends on Wednesday. So please, you can save a lot of money. It's the 75th anniversary. Shields has been in business 75 years, believe it or not. So to celebrate the 75th, they made some special deals with Frigidaire. Not only as to pricing, and you can save up to $1,200, but also on payments. 0 down, 0 payments for 6 months, or in some cases up to 12 months at Shields. You know what, folks? I've always said this. Look, at the very least, give them a chance. We know that the big box stores will always be around shipping their money off to China or wherever. It's the smaller businesses that need support. They do very well at Shields, make no mistake about that. But at least give them a chance. At least check out their website. You'll be very pleased at the prices. You'll be very pleased at the fact that they can deliver in 2 or 3 days. You'll be very pleased at the payment from Shields. Shields.ca. More texts coming in. Yes, John.
The number here, 613-413-2217. This person says, canceling Canada Day is going too far. We've suffered enough, and people will revolt if it happens. The vaccine is designed to help, and with more than 70% of the province getting dosed, then it's time to release the federal restrictions. Tim says, is Aaron O'Toole still the opposition leader? There is no shortage of ammunition for him to raise his profile. And
he
all
is,
I've
though.
heard
I mean,
from him is
this is the problem, is that he's there every day. He's pounding away, and not only that, his cabinet ministers, and he has far superior support than does Trudeau. But and I see him all of the time on Facebook. But once again, the media just doesn't seem to give him very much space. But I don't know what else he can do. I mean, he's out there every day. He's doing what he can. He is the only leader who's come forward and said, we should not cancel Canada Day. This is a day to celebrate. He got a little bit of publicity on that. I think this would be a very popular message. But by and large, the media just ignores him. Go ahead, John.
Barry says, Lowell, you can't stop talking about bad politicians and governments that are run badly, or you will become apathetic as the people that vote for drama teachers to lead the country.
No, but if people don't care, and very clearly they don't, I mean, the more mistakes, the more scandals, the more COVID that he imports, the greater his popularity. So there comes a point when you say, you know what, folks, if this is what you want, so be it. I'm not going to stand in your way anymore. I've almost come to that conclusion. I mean, I've been pounding away for 5 years at this guy, okay? Five years, maybe a bit more, I've been pounding away. And whatever I'm doing, what I'm saying, it's not working. People, particularly women, I'm sorry. This makes women mad, but we've gone through this before. It's women who are electing him. What can you do? More text. Yes, John.
And don't forget, I sent you some stats the other day, too, just looking at the social media numbers for some of the political leaders. I mean, yep. Justin Trudeau, I mean, obviously huge internationally, 74 million followers on his Facebook. And Aaron O'Toole, 114,000. The gap is, I mean, that's massive. Anyway, some of the other comments coming in. Arthur says, lack of leadership at all parties. An email from Lisa who says, Lowell, doesn't surprise me that the air travel continues. I've seen over the last few months mainly East Indians leaving Canada or returning from said destinations, self-quarantining non-existent. Sean says, bad things have happened in the past and should not be forgotten, but I never did any of these bad things or even supported them. Cheryl says the mainstream media is bought off. They're not reporters, they are puppets. Joshua says COVID isn't about politics, or it shouldn't be, but most people seem to think Trudeau can do no wrong. It's okay as my guy does it. Jason says, why would Trudeau want the pandemic to end? He's exploiting it to keep control over the country through emergency measures. And Ann says, are we ever going to get the documents from the Winnipeg lab? Something very bad is being swept under the rug here.
Now, isn't that strange? But this is one of the things that bothers me. By and large, our listeners, our viewership, are people who are more aware of what's going on than most. That's the only reason that you would listen, is, you do care about the country and you're aware more than most of what's going on. But this is the first person who has mentioned this. Listen, the will of Parliament is being thwarted here. That's dictatorship. When the government of the day refuses to abide by the wishes of Parliament, all parties, save the Liberals in the House of Commons, have voted to see those records. 2 Chinese scientists were kicked out of the country. They were working at a highly secret lab in Winnipeg. I think by now you know the story. We want to know why they were kicked out. Is there any relationship between what they did, what they were doing, and COVID? We don't know. And so Parliament voted. The NDP, the Green Party, even the Independents voted that we be able to see those records. Despite this, the government, this is Trudeau, says, no, I'm not going to let you see them. Even the Speaker of the House, who is a Liberal, said, no, you've got to abide by the will of Parliament. You've got to show Parliament those documents. You know what's happening. The Liberals are suing the Speaker of the House to prevent him from forcing them to show these documents. Now, somebody out there has got to get concerned about this. When the government, in this case the Liberal Party, will not pay attention, will not follow the rules, will not pay attention to the will of Parliament, then that is a dictatorship. This is when one person or one group of people overrule the wishes of the Parliament, the duly elected Parliament of the nation. And that's what's happening here. They're suing the Speaker, a Liberal, to stop him from forcing them to show them the documents. And once again, hardly anybody seems concerned. Sometimes you wonder how nations fall into dictatorships. I suppose if we go back far enough, we can look at Nazi Germany, we can look at Russia, we can look at any number of nations and wonder, well, how did people allow this? Well, I'm not suggesting that we're going to fall into Nazi, but I'm saying that when you don't care about some of these things, that's what happens. All it takes is one generation that doesn't pay attention to civics, and you may not have democracy anymore. John, we've got some more texts coming in here.
Yes, we do. Again, the number here is 613-413-2217. If you are commenting on Facebook or on Twitch, I will acknowledge your comment. That lets you know that it's on my list to try and get on the show to Lowell. More from Peter. He says, Premier Ford said today in Bracebridge he will be talking to the new medical officer of health, Dr. Moore, about a possible opening sooner than later, but nothing solid one way or another. He adds, it's especially young women who are impressed with Trudeau. Trudeau likely buys the followers on Twitter. It's like his Facebook account. You got it filled with people not even in the country when you check where they're from. And he adds, even the Speaker of the House of Commons is fed up with Trudeau. Julie says, I'm a woman. I'm a woman, says Julie. And I will not vote for Justin Trudeau. He's a slimeball like his dad. And Dean says, makes me wonder what is in those papers about the Chinese scientists that they are so reluctant to divulge any information. And a text at 613-413-2217 says, Lowell, we live in a cancel culture. The liberal view is bred to the younger population through the schools. They fear programs being cut by a conservative. By the way, yes, release the records and respect the will of Parliament.
Talking about leadership, one of the few things that Trudeau promised and actually fulfilled that promise is the legalization of marijuana. Now, here we are 4 or 5 years after legalization. What's your assessment? Has it worked out? Some people predicted disaster. I don't see disaster. I don't see many advantages either, but I'm an old fart. What the hell do I know, right? But what do you think? Overall, the legalization of marijuana, has it been a good thing, a positive thing? Has it been a bad thing, or is it somewhere in between? Are you glad we legalized marijuana? Was it a good decision? Is this one of the rare good decisions that Trudeau has made, or is it not a good decision? Anybody has any thoughts on that? Please let me know. Centennial Glass, got to get a word in here. Centennial Glass, one of the things that they really are proud of and specialize in is custom-made glass furniture. And increasingly, this is what's happening. Some of the designs now with glass are just spectacular. And I'm just not talking about like on a office furniture, banisters, railings, all of glass, etc. It's amazing what they can do. Entire panels, entire walls of glass. If you've got an idea, you're just maybe thinking of something, you're doing some renovation, you're maybe building a new house and you really want to get very modern, check with Centennial Glass. They've got plans there, and they'll have someone who'll sit down with you and work out some ideas. They'll tell you whether it's possible. They'll tell you what it might cost, and they'll probably be able to give you sort of a visual idea of what it'll look like. Centennial Glass, good people, very fair prices, and a wonderful warranty. They are on Industrial Avenue, not far from the train yards here in Ottawa, and in Renfrew. More texts, John.
As for the legalization of marijuana, Ray says it's too expensive. Terry says legalize marijuana, and the bell in the Peace Tower goes bong, bong, bong. Thank you, Terry. Jay says legalization, yes, but put the money to pay down the deficit. Where did it go? And a text at 613-413-2217. One issue I have is some work stoned, whereas drunk is not allowed. And we do have a call coming in. Let's just go to this caller now. I don't even know who it is, but you're on the air with Lowell Green. Hello.
Oh, hi. Hi, Lowell. Legalization of marijuana.
Yes.
I mean, I have a neighbor. I live in an apartment complex. I have a neighbor who's out on the balcony 20 times a day smoking marijuana, which impacts 5 of us. You know, we can't sit on the balconies because he's always out there smoking. And, you know, like...
Is this a public servant?
Am I a public servant? No.
No. Is the person smoking?
Sorry. No, I think he's retired because he's home all day long. I'm working from home, so I get really impacted. So it comes into my apartment. It bothers me. 5 other neighbors, we've all complained, but there's nothing that can be done because it's legal now.
Right.
So stuff like that, you know, it does impact people. Not everyone is like that, so I can't. You know, maybe you should.
So you're not crazy. You're not crazy about the legalization then?
No. Or deeper rules. If he's going to legalize it, it has to be maybe in your apartment, or I don't know, but it can't be done. I guess it can't be legalized where it's going to impact so many other people's lives.
Yeah, that's the problem with secondhand smoke of any kind, of course. Mm-hmm. It's no question about it. The reason the reason I asked if it was a public servant, I have a friend who lives in an apartment complex, and there is a woman just 2 doors down. She's a younger woman. She's supposed to be employed by the federal government. She has been at home now for the past 2 years, and he says he doesn't understand how she could be doing any work because she constantly smokes. Like in the morning, first thing in the morning, you can smell it all day long. In the meantime, we're paying her apparently a very good salary. So I'm not suggesting everybody. I'm not suggesting everybody.
Sorry, that is my scare too, because I mean, you know, I work at home now, of course, and I mean, and my job, like, there's no tolerance of you know, drinking during the daytime and smoking, right, and coming back to work. If they ever came and checked up, my house smells like marijuana because I keep my windows open, right? Like I'm thinking, but they know me well enough, but still, you know, like. It's, I mean, apparently he's supposed to be moving, so we're all going to have a party.
All right. Thank you for the call. Thank you.
Okay,
thank you. John, you've got some more texts coming in there?
Yes, we do. Lisa says, I get fed up when I email my MP and get completely ignored. Glenn says, just a reminder, Canadians did not elect Trudeau. They elected his party. The Liberal Party anointed Trudeau to lead his party and by extension He was not elected by Canadians, but he still acts like he was elected Prime Minister. Tim says Trudeau has never shown any respect whatsoever for Parliament, which he has characterized as an oppressive colonial institution. But why wouldn't he treat it this way with the polling numbers he's got? And Nancy says, yes, it's better than alcohol. It keeps people calm, referring to legalized marijuana. And says, don't partake, so can't really comment other than it has created some employment. And Peter says, legal weed is expensive and weaker, so I'm told, hasn't done much to slow down the dealers, or dealers are selling far more serious drugs like purple meth.
Yeah, that's they sold us on the idea that somehow or other legalizing marijuana would cut down on the illegal trade. I'm not sure if it has or not. Some of you people out there who do smoke, and you may have a better idea. My understanding is that most people are still buying it, from Backstreet Boys rather than legal. I don't know. I really couldn't tell you. I don't think it was the disaster that some predicted, but I'm not sure if it has all of the benefits that we were promised on this. John, I'm going to sign off a little bit early here. We're right out of text, I understand.
No, we got a couple more. Do you want to just finish off with a couple that came in on the phone?
Please. Let's do that.
Bruce in Harrow says, what is the next logical legal step that can be taken to enforce the will of Parliament?
Well, as you know, the Liberal Party, has taken this case to the federal court. I don't really know the political makeup of the federal court. Hopefully, the federal court will do the right thing and say, no, the will of Parliament must predominate. But if the federal court rules that the Liberals don't have to show us these documents, I don't know. I don't know what the next step is. Very clear, this would be a major step. In other words, if the federal court rules they don't have to show us those documents, the federal court will rule that the Parliament's will is not dominant, that a political party can overrule the will of Parliament, which would be in my opinion, very dangerous thing to do. I'm not sure if very many people are aware or if they're even concerned about it. Thank you all. We will be back.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify,